2 minutes. Okay, so thank you for coming back in time so we can start our chat about pole vaulting in the United States and in Europe, and then what we can learn from each other. There was a question from you, from one of you, to please explain a little more and in detail the concept of the pole drop. Can you do that on your birthday?
Can you do that?
Well,
how old are you now? 39?
Yeah, 65, man. I'm a senior. I get discounts. I get a discount down there for the coffee. Okay. Active pole drop out of the back. The pole is up around a little bit of weight on your front hand so that you can get your hips moving. So you don't want to have it straight up in the air because the weight kind of helps you move forward. So you have a little bit of weight on your front hand, not too much, not too little, but just right. And it takes hours and hours of practice. So it establishes the hips being really nice and tall out of the back. So you're real balanced and postural, and the pole is part of you. So it's kind of sticking out of your body and it's a part of you. As you're accelerating, the pole begins to go on the left hand or the bottom hand, but not too much. It still stays up until the vaulter accelerates. It's accelerating into about between 10 and 8 steps out. And between 10 and 8 steps out, the tip starts to leave the body. But the key is that the vaulter must be accelerating, not prancing, but attacking and accelerating into the box. A lot of vaulters nowadays prance and count, and they're real pretty, but they're not turning over and attacking the box. They're not putting a lot of force and acceleration into the box. So to time it up, they have to be accelerating before the pole leaves the body. That's why you move over to the track and do them repeatedly, time and time and time again for months, to get the kids to feel that oneness with the pole. So it's not an easy thing. In fact, it's probably the most difficult thing to do in vaulting. To get the pole to become seemingly weightless. So if a kid goes out and you say work on your pole drop and you do it 3 or 4 times and they get bored with it, you're never going to get good at it. So what we do is that from day one, every time they move, the pole tip is always moving. So as you saw on the film, once we get on the runway at 6 steps, Kid will rock on the back. The tip's a little lower because they're only at 6 steps. If they go like this and drop it, I stop them. And they go, nope, drop your tip. Because I want the pull tip to stay with the body. So that as they run, it leaves the body and they can accelerate and catch it. So it's hard to explain. It's just that through my non-scientific mind, more artistic mind, I've discovered that if the tip is between 35 and 60 degrees, it can work for athletes. If it's below 30 degrees, there's too much weight in their front hand and they're not accelerating. And they won't really use the benefits of an active drop. Like Jim says it can help you, it can hinder you, or it can handicap. There's a lot of boulders out there that are being handicapped because they carry a static pull. And the static pull is a dead freaking weight. And you cannot run faster with a dead weight in your hands. So if you can imagine trying to long jump with a dumbbell or a medicine ball out here and go, okay, run down and hit the board of the long jump, you can't do it. If you have the weight right here with your body, you could do it because it's a part of your body. So all the pole drop is trying to develop a relationship so that it moves with the body at all times. And it takes hours and hours and hours of practice. And we just use the narrow grip and the one arms just to take this out of the equation so they can't catch it and they can't fight it. So it takes a lot of repetition. Jim?
So give them some checkpoints for starting to watch for that. So checkpoints, you do it live, so you know what you're looking for, but give them some checkpoints if they want.
So again, it's different with everyone because everyone has a different speed. And so I'm looking for 70 degrees, a little bit of weight out of the back. They're running. And then as I see that they're accelerating, it starts to leave the body so that 8 steps out, you don't want it any lower than 35 degrees. 45 is beautiful. 60 is good for guys that really are accelerating and have got it figured out. Morganoff is an example that can drop it from 60 degrees. I had a kid that went 565 and could drop it from 60 degrees. He couldn't do it all the time, but when he did it, it was very dynamic. The pole just blew up. He just hit his takeoff and it just like a teeter-totter with a rocket on it, he just took off. So it's hard to explain. If you I gave an email there, you can get in touch with me. I'd be glad to send you 100 pole drop drills. What it is just practicing, like a dance, you know.
Yeah, and that was a great question earlier. They talked about Mondo because if you think about it, because of the length of the pole, because of the weight, it's either going to hurt you or help you how you control the pole. I don't even like to call it a drop because that's all blah. It's a dropping action.
It's a blah.
Yeah, so it's I like to think about transferring it from carrying it to the takeoff. So the question about Mondo is valid. If he drops his pole too early, he has to hold it, and he gets tight, and he leans back a tiny bit, and he strides out a tiny bit, so he's not carrying that momentum through the takeoff, all the momentum he could. Herbert brought up a good point. Maybe he's so fast that he hasn't figured out how the rhythm of that, the harness of that. And then the opposite's true too. If you drop it too late, it throws you out of correct running mechanics. You drop it too late, you have to throw it down. So again, you lean back to throw the pole down, even just slightly. You have to throw it down, and you're not in a good position to transfer momentum through takeoff. And I had the opposite. Lawrence was very late with his pole drop, so we had to deal with that. And then Tim was the opposite. Tim was very early, and he would get really into the plant because the pole was dragging down. So
you tell the Tim Mack story, okay? Tell the Tim Mack story about 2001 World Championships. He noticed something. He was different, and then he made changes. So
okay.
Okay.
So at the beginning of my talk, I said good athletes make great athletes, make good coaches. But You know, we were talking about elite performance. We had a great presentation last night, today on elite performance. You know, to go from that 570 to 595 or 6 meters or whatever change you're trying to make, it's more mental than physical, I think. So David likes me to tell this story because I didn't really change my coaching, but Tim made a decision. So in 2001, we were at the World Championships in Edmonton. I think he got 5th, or he was 5th in the world that year. And he was decent. He was 570 at the championships. He won the Goodwill Games that year. And on a good day and good conditions, he could jump 580. But he went to Edmonton, and Dimitri jumped 605. Almost know how to do it at the beginning.
He got injured.
Yeah.
Between qualification
and
the final, he couldn't walk even.
Yeah. So, but that was a turning point for Tim, because he got out there, and the Americans don't see the Europeans a lot. So he got out there, he was on the smallest pole with the lowest grip, with the most inside step, and jumped 570, got 5th, but he was discouraged. He was very discouraged, and something changed in him that day. I didn't really change how I coached him, but it's really up to the athlete. It's really up to the athlete to commit to these things. And so that was really the switch that turned him from a 570 jumper to 595 jumper.
Well, and Tim told me this, that they worked for 3 solid years on that, and by the time they were getting ready for the Olympic trials, instead of taking off, I don't know the meters, 12.6, he was taking off 13.6. Instead of being on the shorter pole, he was on a longer pole with his grip going up. So what they worked on for 3 solid years is working on a little bit better relationship with the pole and carrying, a little bit more active, feet were turning over, feet were freed up because the tip was more weightless, and he went 601 that summer.
Yeah, and I think the athlete has to buy in, the athlete has to trust it, and I think that was a turning point for him to say, I know what I have to do to jump these heights, I know where my takeoff needs to be, I know where my grip needs to be, but I have to trust this more. I have to be willing to make changes and willing to experiment, not just do the same things I've always done. And so, I mean, that's the difference between pretty good and really good, is deciding to try to make those changes.
Well, Petrov told me a story in my apartment years ago, and I had a bunch of Russian books, athletics books out on the coffee table. We're celebrating his birthday, and Petrov said, "This is my coach." I go, "What?" I said, "This is my coach. My coach fought in World War II and came back home to Ukraine with one arm. But he still wanted the pole on bamboo, so he ran with the pole up against his shoulder and then ran down there and jumped one arm, bumped it off the stump and pole over with one arm." Well, right away, I looked at my friend and I said, "Well, I do believe that's an active pole drop," and that's kind of where the idea was born. So I'll be glad to talk to you. I'm here until tomorrow afternoon. I'll be glad to discuss in depth about it, but you just get off the runway and you practice. And I'll send you these films and all these drills. You practice and they'll know it when they hit it. I had an athlete that was a 550 PR, ran around the corner. He weighed about 160 pounds and he was using a 5 meter 210. I used to have a big decathlete. And he was almost hyperventilating because he said, "I got it." And we went out to watch it, and he ran down the track and hit that. And when he took off and he hit the tip, it picked his body up. And he's just this little guy. It looked like he was going to be able to pole vault with no box, just went airborne. And it's because he finally figured out the balance of moving that pole. So it does take a lot of work.
Yes, it's a very delicate timing for it. Maybe the explanation can be that the pole is rotating forward already during the approach, and it has no weight in the arms of the water. If the water if it's done correctly, he has no feeling for a weight of the pole, and he's even having a feeling that the pole is pulling him off the ground.
Pat Manson told me once, he said, it doesn't matter if you're carrying a telephone pole or a toothpick. If you carry it right, you don't feel it. It's not even there. And that's very, very true.
And theoretically, you know, what Petrov postulated back in the early 80s was that it can add to the momentum of your jump. It's not static, it's not hindering you, it will add to the momentum of your jump.
Good. The problem is to decide for it. And you explained very well how Tim Mack decided to do it.
Yeah.
And decided, this decision finally led to winning Olympic title.
And yes, that meet was a big turning point for him to finally say, I have to try this, I have to trust this, I have to do it to be competitive.
Yeah, and you mentioned the feet and the inches. So he moved back his takeoff point from 375 to 410 for those who are in the metric system. And you know how much athletes who like to be under because of failing pole plan must struggle to get their takeoff point out that much. And that was really something that we have to improve a lot.
And that came from him. We were still teaching the same stuff, but he's like, I can't settle for this anymore. I can't settle.
All right, so you saw the drills, and David is sharing his movies. We have to find out how they can, maybe you put it into my Dropbox, and I can do the Dropbox.
And you know, I have some postcards, I'll bring it tomorrow, and I'll pass them out on the seats, and you'll find them with the same picture, it has my email on it. Email me, I'll send you a whole load of stuff that you'll get bored watching. I've got more film than I lose more stuff than I've got, so, yeah.
Or you may just step through his Facebook page, his Facebook group,
Right.
where there is an endless story.
Endless.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so let's turn to another question. Maybe the American pole vault is now ruling the world still. I'm a fan of statistics, and I found out that among the top 100 in the world best list are 28 American female vaulters and 23 American male vaulters. It's a huge number. And so this must have some reasons, and maybe you can give us some insight into your situation. How do you think something like that can happen? Maybe Jim will begin.
I see it as being spread more evenly. You know, I see exciting vultures that I didn't realize that we had that presence on the list, to be honest with you. But I think the vultures, there, like I said, in the U.S. there are pockets, but it's gotten a lot better. It's the coaching for the youth coaches has gotten a lot better because of the development of the summit. So some of the things I had to deal with as a coach, dealing with high school to college transition, it's improved. The high school athletes are more sound fundamentally than 15 years ago, and I think I'm concerned because we use the feeder system through the universities, and I'm more concerned for the men's vault that there aren't enough university teams emphasizing having good pole vaulters. There are certain schools that do it, but there are a lot of schools that don't want to deal with it, the time and the expense. So I'm relatively concerned about that. You have this phenomenon now of legacy vaulters, you know, dads coaching their sons and generational vaulters. So maybe we're just in a good time period for that right now.
Or maybe part of the explanation could be that there's just a huge number of pole vaulters overall in the United States. I I have in my might have the number that the poles that are produced in the United States are sold by a number of 80% within the United States.
Wow.
So
How's he find this stuff? I
How do you
have
know
no
that?
idea where he gets this stuff.
just talk to Steve Chapelford.
You're more of a junkie than I am, yeah.
Maybe Steve Rippon can add
Yeah.
that number. I don't know.
I had exactly the same conversation with the Betsy at the coffee break there, and he asked me why we don't make poles in Europe.
Yeah.
I said because we sell 80% of the poles in the US,
Yeah.
so there's no point, but it costs $1 million for the machines to make the poles.
Yeah, it's of course it also is that school system that is supporting competitive sportsmen also in the pole vault, and it's attracting more and more European athletes. Meanwhile, as we know, there's one Stefan Munz now is coaching in Stuttgart. He used to be in the United States doing that, and I think there's a number more coaches and athletes here that did the same steps. So there are huge resources in the United States, and of course that big number may be playing a role also. But I think we can notice that if you look at the development of the pole vault, that mental problems and psychological problems are seem to gain more momentum. From my feeling, it's that more and more athletes are starting to develop a mental problem, pole vaulting. You know, we had in Germany, we had a vaulter, he's jumping. He had been jumping more than 580. He was still, I think, at the Ronaldo Championships a few years ago, competing, and he stopped because he couldn't jump anymore. I don't want to talk about the details. I don't know about the details, but we lost him. We know that Raphael Holzdeppe for some time had huge problem running through. And my question is, do you see the same problem? And what do you think we can do as coaches to have a better mental and psychological treatment of these athletes?
Well, years ago I had a kid who was very talented, and he disappeared from practice. Head coach said, well, where is he? I said, I don't know. I called him, he won't answer his phone. So I went to his dormitory, and I called his phone like 20 times. He finally answered, came downstairs, went to have coffee, and he said, I'm depressed. I hate school, I'm depressed about school, I'm depressed about track, and I want to quit. And I said, well, before you decide to quit, and that's up to you, do you need help? If you're willing to, I'll introduce you to a psychologist, and I'll take you to him every week if you like. And he was open to that. Took him to a sports psychologist who's a great family psychologist, and I've known him for 30 years. He hypnotizes people that are open to it. And I call him my voodoo doctor because it was absolutely a miracle. After meeting with the doctor twice, a few weeks later, he came out to practice. He was a different person. He was coachable, he was positive, he was going to class, his grades was getting better, he was motivated, he was a different person. A few weeks later, he went 5:30 indoors, which was a PR. Then a few weeks later after that, the Texas Relays, he went 5:55 and PR'd by nearly a foot. And this is after just a couple of visits with this doctor. It just completely transformed this kid.
I think there's clinical where people, like you said, they have issues here in pole vault. And I think there's more mental training, as Fabian talked about how that's a big part of his team. And I think, we had that issue, we've had that discussion in the States about, well, this is my short run PR. Well, I don't really care what your short run PR is. What's your meet PR? Because we had that a lot with kids. I can jump this from short run.
Short runitis, yeah, it's a sickness. Yeah. I'm not very scared.
Or run throughs, but You know, we're all about efficiency, and so you can get into those habits, and it becomes such a bad habit. The coaches have sports psychologists, have technicians, but maybe they do need to go out and talk to a person about developing processes, developing routines, and those type of things where you can avoid those dry patches. But yeah, we get that a lot. We can't go from long run. I'm like, it's only 18 steps. It's only 18 steps. Come on, it's just long. So we kind of get that. We go through those phases too. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Well, in the same area, I had a girl at Rice that was incredibly talented, very fast, but could not pole vault for life, depended on it. She did not improve for 3 solid years. She struggled. She's a very, very slow kinesthetic learner. She could not change. So her way of jumping was to come down and do a big block and then break and try to fall over a very low bar. So, to make a long story short, I don't want to bore you, but her senior year, she had a bad knee. And I said, well, why don't you meet with me at practice an hour before practice? She came out to practice, we talked for about an hour. And sometimes this is all it takes. And I said, what are you thinking about when you get back to the runway? She goes, well, I'm thinking about my technique, I'm thinking about my pull drop, and I'm thinking about clearing the bar, and I'm thinking this, and thinking that. And that just all of a sudden occurred to me that she had so many thinking going on in her head that she completely froze her body, she couldn't do anything. So I said, well, listen, today, practice, just go back, think of nothing. I'm no psychologist, think of nothing. So she goes back there, clears the bar. I go, that was fantastic. What were you thinking about? My socks. I was thinking about my socks. I go, okay, well, pick something different. Next time she's listening to birds singing, clear the bar a foot higher. Next time she's listening to a coach that was talking off to the distance, clear it a foot higher. So long story short, that year, she PR'd, went nearly 4 meters, and her PR before that in college was 11.6, which is 340. So what it really taught me was I need to do a better job coaching to try to make sure I find out what's going on in their head when they're mentally getting prepared to take a jump. And so the whole mantra now with the kids I coach is that I'll give you some cues. You pick one that you think's the most important. You think about it when you're sitting down having your Gatorade, but when you get on the runway, you clear your mind, see yourself pole vault, and just go. And we've had tremendous success with that kind of attitude. So.
And I think you've seen it with a lot of the presentations. You're talking about autonomy and teaching the athlete to be self-directed. And because, it's old for us. It's 30 years old for me, but it's 2 or 3 years old for them. And so I think David's right. A lot of times they're thinking about way too many things, and it's our job to bring them back to 1 or 2 things they need to do. And because they've overloaded themselves, they've gotten into a bad habit, and then they're in a rut, and then they can't take off. And you have to you don't see as much with the kids that play and experiment. You see it with the kids that get in a bad habit, and then they get too clogged up in their mind, and it's our job to refocus them. And it's really our job to try to make them independent. I really enjoyed the presentation that talked about getting the athlete to be independent and learning the event themselves, because I got a call when I was coming over here from a 580 jumper. I was in the airport somewhere, I forget which town I was in, and he's like, I can't do these drills. I'm working on this, I can't do that. And he's an engineer, and he's very bright, but he's all over the place. So it's your job to bring it back to, well, this is why you're doing it, and don't worry about these things. Just focus on these things, and your step will come out, and your takeoff's going to be fine. But if that's the coach's job, is to bring it back into focus and keep it as simple as possible.
Well, we'll see in the United States, there's a lot of club coaches that the kid gets off the runway and they're talking to him, and they go back and meet another coach that's got an iPad, and they show him the iPad, and they show him the jump, and they're talking to him. And then another coach picks up the athlete's walking back to their vault bag, and they're talking to him. And there's just too much information.
Yeah, I like it when an athlete has a really good jump and they have a really nice jump and they have a really clean jump and they make the bar and then the coach talks to them for 15 minutes. I'm like, what is that all about? Just go back and do it again. You know, just do that over. And here's one thing to think about. They have to talk and talk and talk and talk, and I'm just like, keep it simple, keep it aggressive, attack the ball.
Well, and that's what I found in this old age. I can say that now since it's my birthday and I'm old.
It's your birthday.
But I will say this, that when I was young, I overcoached. I did too much. I'm doing more of letting the kids take control of practice and doing a lot of the, what did you feel when you get off the pit? What did you feel you did there? If they don't understand, I'll tell them some things that I saw, but I try to focus on one cue that they can work on. I try to question them, but I do a lot less talking than I did years and years ago. I just try to get out of the way and let them learn. Just like I was saying to like Mondo that played pole vault as a child. A lot of these kids, they don't get a chance to play. I think they need to play and to get out there and have little competitions and play around with it and feel and you know, teach themselves what they're feeling, what they're doing.
Okay. Are any more questions to this topic of mental training, mental attitude between athletes and coaches?
Yes.
During the presentation, you were saying also playing around with the hand grips was helping you see any run throughs and things like that. Are there other things like that you can try it out that could also maybe have similar effects?
Never. I mean, I've seen. I've been coaching for 48 years. I've never seen this rhythm of a group of kids as a whole trusting and figuring it out and coming down there with no run-throughs or bailouts. In fact, one day a Japanese boy ran through and we all went, oh! Because we hadn't seen it in weeks. And he goes, I know. And he went back there and figured it out. So it's been very interesting to see the dynamic of the group and how they've kind of taught themselves they can trust their run and trust their drop and trust it enough to be able to commit to a fast jump. So that's a good question.
Okay. But David, you mentioned a lot Italy Petros and maybe other European coaches that you've been visiting to learn from them. You also have been talking about the influence of European coaches or European thinking. Is that a topic for American coaches? Or is that a part of your history in learning?
It's a topic for us. Do you want to go first? Do you want to go first?
I mean, Pole Vault Summit has become a tradition for the last 30 years in the United States, and I met Petrov there as a high school coach, and I had a kid. I taught the pole drop because that's what Buka did, so Buka was the best, and I kind of liked what he was doing. I wanted to figure it out, so I taught it to the high school kids. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know why it was good, but I just did it. So the kid came down the runway and he did this beautiful jump, and Petrov went, "Whoa, where's his coach?" Well, then they bring me down there, and right away, he's my buddy. And I was just flabbergasted. So years later, I got invited to go to Formia and spend time with him. And it was, for me, earth-shattering because he's a great teacher, like any great mentor that you have. And he would take me under his wing and say, "Okay, you have questions?" And I go, "Well, what about this?" And then he would teach. And then I'd smack myself in the face and I go, "Oh, that's so simple, that's ridiculous." So he was a great mentor, and it all started with the Pole Vault Summit. Andrzej Shashinsky, yeah.
So, if you were here when I was talking earlier at the beginning of my talk, I said when I was 22, I was scared the crap out of me because I had to be on a very good team and the pole vault wasn't very good. And the coaches said, "It's okay." And I was very lucky. We don't have a formal system in the U.S. We have a very loose system, but I was very lucky that I was a product of a lot of good coaches. And so Bill Webb was our decathlon coach, had Tom Pappas, a lot of 8,000 point decathletes. And so Bill and Coach Huntsman and Doug Brown, they said, it's okay, we're gonna teach you. We're gonna have you, and we said, who do you want to come in for clinics? And so the best US vaulter at the time was Mike Tully. He won the silver medal, set the American record, and his coach. So they brought him in for a week. His name was Dave Johnson, and so that was really formative for me. But the most formative was they said, "What coach do you want to bring in?" And I told you earlier that for me, every coach leans different ways. But I said, you know, at the time, the best American vaulters were Corey Tarpany, Tim Bright, and Scott Davis, and so they were the best Americans at the time. But if you went back a layer, you said, all right, who's coaching them? And that was when Anjay came. That was when Anjay came with Nike. Nike brought him to the U.S. And when you look at his resume and the things he did, and coached 2 gold medalists and be the best over here, and then come over and be the best over here. So we were a Nike school. We were a big football school. And so we were a Nike school, so Nike brought Anjay to Tennessee for a week. And we were talking about that earlier. And so it changed the way I thought about the ball, because I didn't know anything. But I was very lucky to have those influences. That was a huge influence on my coaching. So if you talk about coaching trees, and I would like to think I'm a side branch of that coaching tree. You know, so it's huge for me. And then David, you know, for me, like I said, David goes out and talks to people. I'm kind of quiet. He goes around the world. So I know David's going over to Formia, and I make him show me the video, and I make him talk to me. So he's kind of my secret weapon. I know how to use it. I know how to coach it. But you know, you're going to have secret weapons as a coach. It's like who do you depend on in a crunch? You know, I'll go back to what Anjay told me about training and balance and the vaults and momentum. And who do you count on? You have to pick wisely. So I don't have, you know, in the U.S. I have Greg Hall and Brian Yokoyama and David, but European influence was huge on me at the very beginning. And I fell into it maybe, but I was very blessed to have that opportunity.
That's interesting. So, are there more questions to the?
Oh yeah. So the other story I have about is we have a very loose developmental system. It's basically encouraging, and I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but so I was still the first or second year I was coaching, and so Bob Fraley was the head of our development system back then. It was like 87, and it was way before the pole vault summit. And they take me to the room, and Coach Fraley's a big Western guy, big red hair. His son Doug is a big vaulter, and he starts pounding on the table. This is like 86, and he's like, "The pole vault's an American event. We've won every medal, blah, 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 blah." And I'm 22, and I'm sitting here, and he's pounding on the table in front of me. He says, "We gotta figure out how to win gold medals. Here's 3 articles. Here's this Birmingham article. Here is," he gave me 2 more. And he's like, "Go out and figure this out." And I looked at him, I'm like, holy crap, I'm supposed to win a gold medal? I've been coaching like a year. I'm just like, how's it? It's scared. I went on, I better figure out how to do this. It was pretty fun.
Well, that was how the summit started.
Yeah. And so they said, read this article from Coach Petrov and figure it out. I'm like, I'll do the best I can. And it's all our knowledge is secondhand, and we have to interpret that. David goes out and he pesters people and tries to get it firsthand. So that's why I really enjoyed David.
Can you give us an idea how the summit right now is situated? How is it working? How is it set up? How many people are getting there?
The summit's interesting. If you haven't gone, it's an experience. It's in Reno, and it's what it is a youth clinic and a coaches clinic, and then they have age group competitions, and so they have an elite competition, and then they have different age groups. So there's 18, 20 pits going on at once. And so it's kids of all ages, and we have clinics for coaches, but basically the registration from the kids pays for the management of the summit. And it's been a great experience for me. I mean, you go and you develop relationships just like this. This is awesome. And you develop relationships and meet people, and you pick up nuggets here and there. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I want to encourage everybody here too. This is my third European conference, and I strongly encourage you to go walk up to someone you've never met before and introduce yourself, because that's how Herbert and I met. I've met some of the great, to me, some of the great teachers in this event. Coach Hirota from Japan, incredible coach that I had great privilege to go to Mito and do a clinic there in Japan a couple years ago. And it's just, to me, it's just amazing the relationships you can make if you just open up and talk to someone that you don't even know. Most people sit together and go, okay, we're all friends, but I encourage you to meet somebody and get to know someone from somewhere else, because you won't regret it. So.
Well, I think it definitely is a very inspiring event, having so many people. I mean, 12 pits side by side, competing all day long.
It's like 14 or 15.
14 or 15.
It's a big fan around the arena, and with the runways in the center, it's a big fan. And that's been the fun part, is we've watched kind of Mondo grow up. He's on the 6-year-old pit, he's on the 8-year-old pit, and it's been fun to. I've been going for 30 years. I should have been coming here for 30 years.
Well, in the one year, Herbert came and spoke. Another year, with Philippe Collet came, and the French.
Yeah.
And so we've always had a lot of international people come in and speak, and it's a learning experience every time.
Okay, so there are of course always young coaches there. What can you tell us about your system of mentoring young coaches? Is there a system doing that, or does it just rely on personal relationships?
At the beginning, a few years ago, they tried to actively pair us with people, but it's become informal. It's more informal, and I think that's why I was fortunate as a coach to have people encouraging me to go out and create a network and create my own philosophy and see which coaches I like. And it doesn't matter where they're from or if they have good results, go and think how they think and be open to that. I know, and I like to do that with my athletes too. They have to decide what's best for them. I remember Tim and Paul were good friends, and Tim said, "Can I write a letter to Steve and see what he thinks of my my weekly cycle?" Do you remember that?
Have you wrote to Alex?
Oh, they wrote to Alex. No, I thought it was, and that's okay. If your athletes have to trust you and have to get feedback, and we try to do that with our coaches too. And so we don't have a formal mentoring program, and I really think that's, the hard part about when you're young is you want to prove to people that you're good, and you want to prove you can do it by yourself, and the athletes want to do that too sometimes. So I think the coaches and the athletes need to understand that it's part of the process, that you better figure out who your network is and not try to do it by yourself.
Okay. I have one more question still have some more questions. There is one rather unusual athlete. He's Canadian, but I think he learned football in the United States. It's Sean Barber.
Yeah.
And his specialty is that he does have an unusual high grip. I think he's been gripping more than 530.
Well, he's a Texas boy, David, so why don't you explain that?
The second question, does it have to do with the poles he's using, or with the fact that he's a Texas boy?
Am I allowed to say dumbass?
No, you're not.
Okay.
You're
Wait a
not.
minute. The
You're not.
gymnast had a lot of bombs.
No.
Okay.
No, you've
Okay.
seen Sean jump a lot.
Okay, Sean was over at Rice, every year. Sean grew up in Houston, Texas. His dad and I are not friends. I'll just leave it at that. But here's what happened. Sean was jumping very well when he wasn't using cocaine and all that other stuff. I'm sorry, but that's what happened. Sean jumped 6 meters, and then all of a sudden, his father said, now you're going to grip higher than anybody else in history. He moves his grip up, but he doesn't have the technique and the ability to move the pole and the swing to do it. And he has gone from a guy that's going 6 meters to what 70, maybe 80 once in the last couple of years. You can't.
That question.
You can only grip as high as the body can move it. And so it's not about how high you grip, it's not about the pole, it's about...
It's how efficient you are.
Right.
And you can compare that to Sam. You compare that to Sam, who's been very dominant, and he's got a very traditional pole carry, old-fashioned pole carry, but he's very consistent. He transfers energy through the takeoff, and he's very efficient. So he's jumping so far over his hand grip, but he finishes jumps all the time, and he's efficient. That's not the competition. I know I get in arguments with weight coaches all the time with my athletes. I'm like, they're not in weightlifting competition. They need to be able to jump, and they're pole vaulters. And it's the same thing with, it's not a grip height. It's not your PR from short run, and it's not how high you grip. It's how high you jump in the meet, right? So those are the things, that's where we need to be efficient, and we need to worry about those things.
For heaven's sake, since we're up here and we get a chance to talk, get a coach and develop a relationship with that coach and stay with that coach. Use other resources and talk to other coaches and bounce ideas around, but stay and develop a relationship with someone you trust and stay the course. Because if you bounce from one coach to another coach to another coach to another coach, you can have too much information and you're not going to make it. What the great guitarist from U2, Edge, was being interviewed about how can you be one of the greatest rock bands in 40-some years? How did you do it? Well, Nietzsche stated that if you go in one direction for a long period of time, the same course, you get great. And I thought, Nietzsche? Who the hell is Nietzsche? I had to go and research, back in my philosophy.
Did you think you were going to get a YouTube quote?
Yes.
This is awesome.
But it's so
That's
cool
awesome.
because you find someone, you develop a relationship. With Sam Kendricks, it's his father. His father's did his program. They trusted, become consistent. The kids figured things out. It's you develop a relationship. I had one of the greatest athlete ever coached that said, well, I just want to keep my left arm straight and I want to drive my knee and I'm going to go somewhere else to do that. And when he did, he went 540. And the kid should have been jumping 6 meters. Develop a relationship with someone that you respect, and hopefully that's a knowledge seeker that will use mentors to help support and then go for it and go to the Olympic Games and be successful. So.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say to finish it off is it is a trust game. It's a very stressful event. It's stressful on your body, it's stressful on your mind, but it's a trust game. You have to learn to trust yourself and be aggressive. You have to learn to trust your coach, so when you don't quite trust yourself, you trust what he says. So it's more of a trust game for elite performance, and that takes time, and so yeah, you can't bounce around too much. More YouTube quote? Can I have more?
But let's talk about Sam Kendricks. That may be the other extreme. Is it true that he's been jumping 6 meters from a 490 pole?
Yeah. But, so, do you like Sam's jump? Do you not like Sam's jump? 6-meter jump's pretty good. Right? Why is Sam's jump good? He's very efficient. He does the same thing every time. It's repeatable. He can be 4 inches under. He can be 4 inches out. He does the same thing every time. And it's just like what we were talking about today. It's, does he move the pole? Does he swing on the pole? Yes, he does both of those things. So if you watch his top hand, he moves the pole and he swings on the pole. His center of gravity never stops. He throws his head back, but his center of gravity never stops. Some people throw their head back and their hips stop. And it's a very simple, efficient jump. Would he jump higher if he had an active pole drop that gave him more momentum? Maybe. But that's his authentic self. That's how his dad taught him how to jump a long time ago. And he's very efficient with his center of gravity over his handhold. So who's to say that's bad?
Stay in one direction and you know.
What do you think? What do you think?
Whatever the niche is.
One of the successful.
That's his authentic jump.
Yeah.
He shouldn't make big changes now.
I'll piggyback off of that with another story. I was interviewing Corey Target, who was a great vaulter back in the 90s, about Andrzej Shashinsky, who was inducted into the USA Hall of Fame last year. First international to do that. He became an American citizen in Poland. That's another incredible story, by the way. But Andrzej was a great mentor for American vaulters. And I was interviewing Corey Tarpon, and Corey told me once, you know, I was watching a workout with Andrzej coaching a kid, and he thought, well, he should drive his knee. So he walked over to Andrzej and said, hey, he should drive his knee more, shouldn't he? And Andrzej said, it is not in him. It is not in him. And I thought, that's pretty incredible, because if you have a kid that just simply can't do something, well, you can fight it and fight it and fight it, or you can find a way around it and work on other strengths and to build the jump. And I had a kid years ago that was a 2-legged swinger, and everybody told me I needed to change it, and I decided to focus on the pole drop. And once we got the hips going, you know, so it was still a very dynamic jump, but there's no way I could have changed it. And he tried to change it, and his jump went down significantly. So you got to try to you pick your battles and choose your fights and find some strengths to work on and try to make less weaknesses and make a kid, you know, be the best one that he can be.
As long as it's not something critical. I mean, they have to have their own, we tried to move Tim back to 20 steps 3 times in his career. More momentum. Sergey did it. Lawrence could do it. Lawrence did it in a week. Tim tried 3 times and he never felt the correct rhythm for it. So you try, you go with what they can do, but you can't force them into doing things that they're totally uncomfortable with.
So maybe last question or last area of questions to open is material. Do you care about the development of new pole technology?
Well, I think if you talk about David's presentation, maybe the basic fundamentals are still showing up. They're still showing up through all the technologies. I think you do change your jump depending on how different poles react. What do you think?
Well, personally, I think poles are different. There are a lot of people in the United States that believe that all poles are the same. I see poles, they move and react differently. So again, I get back to the...
Well, I see athletes change their jump depending on what pole they're on.
So I think it's important to train and to figure out which pole works best for that athlete, the best tool for that athlete. Personally, and this is just my opinion, 30 some years, we have 185 UCS Spirit poles at Rice because I believe that fiberglass is the best. but that's me. Other people believe carbon's the best. So it really comes down to, you know, developing a relationship and figuring out what works, what's best, a best tool for that athlete, and they're successful with it. So.
And I think the athlete feels that too. And you've had conversations with, I'm not going to name brands because I'm not going to do that. But you've had conversations with elite athletes that have changed and known the change and like one jump over the better and wish they wouldn't have changed.
Well, yeah, but
No, I don't want you to get into it. I don't want you to get into it, but he asked the question. Yeah.
So I mean, I really think it's important that you accelerate the pole and that tool works for you. If it doesn't work for you, try another stick. I mean, you know, if anything, from my presentation proven that whether it's bamboo or metal or fiberglass or carbon or you know, made of silly putty, you still got to move it. You got to figure out how to move it and how to use it.
And I think it's fascinating what David's done with the historical stuff and the modern stuff, and he shows you that there's a lot of the same stuff going on, and it's very similar. But yeah, the different materials react differently.
But do you see development? Do you see actual new pole concepts in the United States? Or maybe somebody else?
No, I'm not familiar enough to know if there's new technology.
I know that in Finland they were experimenting with plywood poles back in the late 50s. But I've still plywood poles, really. And I got to find more information on it because I read this in a book, an old book. But you know, I suppose someone will try to do a telescoping pole.
No, it has to be one piece.
Right.
It has to be one piece.
A guy in the United States from Texas broke the top of the pole off and then re-fiberglassed it at an angle and said, "This is the latest thing," and showed it to me. And I said, "You're out of your mind." So, no, I don't know what they can think of a lighter material. I believe if you drop the tip correctly, it can weigh heavier light. But I'm just not sure what they can come off. But of course, you never know.
That is.
They can put wings on it. Yeah.
No, they can't. That's so.
Road pole vaulting.
But that's what's cool about the rules is that if you come up with something better, that's what's cool about the sport. One of the cool things. One of the many cool things.
All right. But so maybe there are more questions from the audience to our great speakers here today.
Tamanji's back there sleeping, you know, he's
I really want to thank everybody for listening and having us here. The invitation to come, it means a lot to us, and it was fun to share, and we'd love to come back sometime soon.
So please, well, I just piggyback, if you have any questions, please stop me in the hallway, comments or whatever, or if you just want to throw a pie, I mean, whatever, you know, whatever you come up with, but I hope to exchange some emails and keep in touch with some new friends, hopefully.
We could just become a thing, man. We could become like Laurel and Hardy or something. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. 2 of the Marx Brothers, yeah.
Well, that was a great job you did. I really liked it. Thank you very much for coming here, joining us, and having this great discussion. We'll have a long evening, maybe more on the table, there will be more single talkings about this or that. And I'm glad to have you here. Thank you again, and hopefully see you soon again
Yes.
in Reno or Cologne. Thank you.
Thank you.